Welcome back to Mindful Serenity Yoga, or Waking Up in a Busy World, and I'm Nancy. I'm going to continue with my little quest of answering questions to see if I can help assimilate the learning I'm picking up on my spiritual mission. And when I say spiritual, I guess we could better way in a more secular way say my personal development. It's all the same thing. I'm trying to fix my mind. How's that? Okay. So I already start the timer a little early, and I'm going to pull a question out from my handy dandy jar, and I am going to do my best to answer it in what I have left. There. I guess I didn't start it. I'm starting it now. I cheated again. Okay, let's answer the question. Why can't I stick to my New Year's resolutions? Why can't I stick to my New Year's resolutions? I'm going to take a breath. Why can't I stick to my New Year's resolutions? I ask myself that question all the time because I have a hard time sticking to my New Year's resolutions. 2022 has just arrived, and most of us, maybe, not most of us, but many of us will have lists of things that we want to accomplish this year. I had a friend recently tell me that she had a certain amount of things on her resolution list that she wasn't able to accomplish, and it's only a weekend and she's feeling guilty. Haha, feeling guilty. One of the greatest things that we have to try to avoid as human beings is this guilt complex we get when we don't do enough. We have several things on a resolution list or several things on a to-do list, and if we don't accomplish them, we tend to beat ourselves up over them, don't we? We tend to feel quite smug with ourselves if we do accomplish the goals, and then we beat ourselves up if we don't. Why do we then have a difficult time with New Year's resolutions? It's probably because we're afraid of this guilt and afraid of the reaction we get when we don't accomplish something. We're afraid of failure. Because what we consider failure when it comes to doing and activity is our inability to meet certain goals that we've set for ourselves. And when we don't meet those goals, the consequence is usually quite harsh. It's totally an internal game. We beat ourselves up for it mostly. We criticize ourselves, self-degradate, tell ourselves all kinds of things, that we're failures, we can't do anything right. We become afraid of trying again in the future because, hey, all these failures add up to us being a big failure. Society to some degree definitely does program this idea that we have to succeed at our goals into us from the very beginning, because we live in a very productivity-orientated society, don't we? It's all about how much we can accomplish in a 24-hour time period. We learn to multitask at a very early age. We learn to walk fast, to rush, to hurry, to drive fast, to get there quick, because up there somewhere all the answers to our problems are going to be. If we can just get this done, then we can relax and be, have a nice, easy life. But until then, we're pumped to go. So when we have all these goals on our to-do list, we feel this pressure to perform them and to meet them. And I call it a masturbation syndrome. We live in a world of musts. I must accomplish my goals. I should accomplish my goals. I have to accomplish my goals. And if we don't accomplish those goals, we feel a sense of failure and a sense of self-deprecation, shame, even guilt. And I mentioned in the beginning of this question that guilt is one of the biggest things we experience when we don't meet our productivity goals. We feel guilt. We feel like we've done something wrong. We feel like we've let somebody down. We've let society down. We're not measuring up, when we don't meet our goals. And that's what guilt is probably all about. We have this idea of how we should be. We have this idea of how the world should be. We have this idea how others should be. And when our ideas don't meet with our reality, then there's a lot of confusion. So we tend to take responsibility for that by being guilty about not accomplishing our goals. Long way around saying, why can I not stick to my resolution list? when it becomes all about the pressure, when it becomes all about the idea I have to get this done, then it's going to be a lot harder to get it done. When it's going to require effort, it becomes a job, a duty, an obligation, rather than something that can be fun and exciting and something that can benefit us in the long run. We're thinking about it as something we have to do, we must do, we should do. That amount of pressure is going to make it really hard for any of us to stick with it. And most people, before the second week of January, have failed in their resolution list. Why? Because they don't really want to commit and try hard, obviously, because they're afraid that the longer they try to stick with it and they fail, the harder it's going to be to endure this guilt response that we tend to get. So I would say that's one of the reasons why we have a difficult time sticking with our resolutions list, because of the pressure that it puts upon our shoulders. And we already have enough pressure in life, don't we, to perform, enough pressure to do, enough pressure to attain, enough pressure to gain. You know, we don't really know how to just be who we are and accept ourselves for who we are. We don't know how to be imperfect because our productivity endorsing society tells us that we need to be perfect doers. And none of us can be perfect at anything, and we're perfectly imperfect is the way I think of it. So when we fail to stick to our resolutions lists, we tend to feel very, even though a lot of times those resolution lists are like supposedly for personal development, you know, healthy choices that we're making. But if it's an obligation, it's not a choice, is it? If it's something we feel like we have to do because we wrote it on a piece of paper, then it takes on a whole different connotation for us, creating more pressure in our lives than necessary. The fun is taken out of it. If we could have resolutions lists of let's have fun, let's enjoy the day, let's just, you know, make the most of it, let's be kinder to ourselves. That would be a good one to put on a resolutions list. Let's be kinder to ourselves when we don't meet our goals, when we don't stick to those resolutions 100%. Let's just be kinder to ourselves. And I think if we could face the new year with a little bit more self-compassion, then our resolution list would probably be a heck of a lot smaller, heck of a lot more realistic. And we'd be a lot easier on ourselves. Heck of a lot scarier, because we'd be a lot easier on ourselves should we not meet those goals. So we don't stick to them because we're afraid of them, and the solution would be a little bit more kindness, patience with self, a little bit more leniency, you know, a lot less guilt, and a lot more self-acceptance of the fact that as human beings we are perfectly imperfect. Anyway, that's your answer. Hope it helps. Namaste.